like a Mustang. See ya. I got a watch on my wrist, it's a bust down. See ya. I'm tryna hop on a flight out of town. See ya. But I sent my baby to bring it around.
Happy Monday. I am your podcast bestie, DaniMarie, and I help creators turn their podcasting into simple, profitable side hustles using AI, systems, and community. And I have a framework that you guys have probably heard me share more than once, which is like my 8 Ps. But today we're talking about something I don't speak about often, which is my 5 Cs. This is your fast track to podcasting growth. And it is content, community, coaching, collaboration, and commerce or conversion. We're going to focus on the collaboration piece for today for the topic at hand, how podcasters can scale faster through collaboration. But I want to remind you, we are headed to Atlanta. We have less than 21 days left for our countdown to the Atlanta activation. So make sure you pull up on us just to remind you what we're doing when we get there. Of course, on the 25th, which is a Saturday, we are going to go to the Black Effect Podcast Festival. That's going to be for the second half of the day. But for the early morning, we're going to be visiting several different locations. So we're kicking it off at Pullman Yards on the bus, and then we're going to make our first stop at this content studio. We're doing live pitches on the bus, a scavenger hunt, a bingo experience. We're making another stop at another location, and then pulling back up to Pullman Yards. Why does this matter? Again, collaboration is key, right? And so getting in the room or on the bus for this case with other podcasters, with other creators, finding out what other businesses are in the Atlanta area to collaborate and partner with, and then just getting the most from the experience and documenting the process and getting all of the good content is great for your visibility. It's great for your social media. It's great for your brand identity. It's great for marketing and so many different ways that the content can be repurposed and the relationships can be leveraged. So that's the reason why we are doing the podcast pull up. We invite you to visit the website, scrolling down at the bottom, plantopodcast.com/Atlanta for all of the details. Tickets are on sale. They will be going up. So please join us. We would love to have you. It's going to be an amazing time. Again, that intro are clips from our previous party bus experiences. If it's easier, we also have the QR code, which you could just scan. It's at the top right for you. And what I love about this is we had this buyer leave a comment. She said, "We are so excited. We are working to grow our podcast, and I think this will be very beneficial." And I would agree. Like I said, it's for the collaborations that you're going to get on the bus. It's for immersing yourself in the Atlanta culture. It is for figuring out what other funding options are out there, because we will be visiting a tech founder. And it's great for the photo optics. It's great for repurposing content and shaking hands and meeting the right people who are on the bus, who are other podcasters and creators who would make great for podcast guests, who would make great for other partnerships. Great if you have a webinar, if you want to do another live show, if you want to invite people to come back and be a guest on your panel. So many different reasons why it makes sense to go with a group of people who are doing the same thing as you. So you don't feel like an outcast. You're not trying to navigate the Black Effect Podcast Festival alone. You're doing it with the community. You're going to have a ton of fun. So that is the reason why we want you to visit our website, plantopodcast.com/Atlanta for the details, and join us as we embark on this amazing journey together. Podcasters take over in Atlanta for the Black Effect Podcast Festival. But nonetheless, let's get into the content for today, because it is spring break. I won't hold you guys because I got to get out the house myself. My kids are ready to go embark on our adventure for the day. So Going back to the 5 C's very quickly: content, community, coaching, collaboration, and conversion. Each one plays a major role helping you grow, staying consistent, and actually making money from your podcast. But today, as I stated, we're diving into the collaboration piece. So let's define what collaboration really means so we have a clear understanding. In my 30s, almost 40, I'll be 40 in May. It is so important to me to go back and research because I already know the definition, but every time you read it a little differently depending on what stage you are in life. So let's define what collaboration means. Most podcasters think collaboration just means being a guest on someone's podcast or inviting someone onto theirs, and that's a start. But if you're trying to scale, collaboration has to go deeper. It goes deeper than that. And I was just reading a book yesterday. Shout out to the book club community that we have. So we read a book in Social Audio yesterday about podcast relationship management. And it's from Juniad. He's another person in the podcasting space that I really respect and learned a lot about him from his platform, obviously. But he wrote this book about podcast relationship management. And it's going deeper than your regular customer relationship management tools that help you stay in contact with your customer. But it's like your CRM won't necessarily work because you have to work on building and cultivating and nurturing a relationship first. Before you just dump somebody into your CRM, you should establish a rapport with that person and really understand what their needs are and if what you offer is a solution for them before you just make one conversation and then that becomes something transactional. And so that was the book reading that we had yesterday, which kind of ties into this collaboration piece. You work together with someone one time, but do you go back to nurture that relationship and turn that relationship into something that's recurring, over time, and something that could lead into a long-term partnership? We just never know if we're not really taking the time to nurture the relationships that we establish with some of the guests that we have on our podcast. So all of that to say, there are levels to this, right? So we're going to talk about what the levels are, but going back to the meaning, most podcasters, again, think that podcast collaboration means having someone as a guest or inviting them on your platform and vice versa. But if you're trying to scale, collaboration should be not just the content that you create together. It should be a shared audience, shared effort, and shared growth. That's another thing. When you invite someone to be a guest on your podcast, you don't even keep in contact. You don't say, hey, this is how well the podcast episode did. This episode is charting. It's currently number 1 on my podcast feed, or whatever the case. Going back to do frequent check-ins with your podcast guests and then asking them, hey, how can I support you? You came on the podcast to talk about your new book. How is that going? Is there anything else I could do to support you? Can we do another collaboration in the near future so I can help elevate and amplify what you're already doing? Those are the conversations to be had that we often neglect, And so the first level to podcast collaboration is level 1, the content. This is where you, again, invite someone as a guest, and then you do interviews on other people's platforms. Some popular spaces that I know are really great for podcast guesting and collaboration, or content collaboration, Pod Match, which can be a little pricey, or you can go to the Facebook group Need a Guest, and that's one of the bigger ones. There are so many others that are like it, but essentially you're looking for a guest or looking for opportunities to be a guest. And I would say try to do like a 80-20. Spend 20% of your time trying to be a guest, and then 80% of your time tapping into other podcasters or other experts who can be a guest on your platform. And then you guys are tapping into one another's audiences. And with that, prep your guests. Let them know that it's important that they share the effort to promote that podcast episode. So swapping out different clips, giving them access to a Google Drive or another cloud server that gives them access to the clips. You can share through like Opus Clips Pro or, like I said, Google Drive, and make sure you give them all of the digital assets so that they can share. You can collaborate on YouTube now. You can collaborate on Instagram. And so there's a feature that says invite collaborator both on YouTube and on Instagram that you can tag that person and make it easy to tap into one another's audiences. And this is good for visibility. That's why this level 1 is considered content collaboration. Level 2 is distribution collab. A distribution collab is cross-promoting. So cross-promoting means like we're both like using StreamYard, for example, which is one of the tools that I use for recording this podcast or this live stream. If you invite someone to be a guest, StreamYard, depending on what package you pay for, will also allow for them to share the recording to their social media. So when they join, they can choose the option. They can select, yes, opt in or opt out of cross promoting. So wherever else they have their audience, maybe on YouTube or Facebook or stream or Twitch, Substack, Instagram, you can both be sharing at the same time of the recording. And so that's also another option. Or tagging intentionally. So making sure that for every time you share a clip, you're tagging that person and giving people an opportunity to find that person and leaving the breadcrumbs for that person. And then again, sharing audiences. Sometimes you might do something more exclusive for your more avid supporters. And so sharing audiences might mean like you both do a private viewing, like recording in Zoom and giving access to your avid supporters behind the scenes so they get first access, or like Patreon, the same thing. Some people like to record for their private audience first before it goes out to the general public. And then giving your audience the option to ask questions and have their questions directly answered when you tap into each other's audiences. Level 2 is a community collab. This is when you do joint lives together. So again, on Instagram, Facebook, and all of the other platforms, a person can request to join your live. And that way it feels less formal. It feels more personable. You're inviting the people to catch you guys in real time and giving the opportunity for people to follow that other person from their live. You can also do shared spaces. And so that might mean, I might take over your stories for a day on Instagram, or you might take over my audience for a day in my social audio on Fanbase, right? So shared spaces is a little different because you're giving someone the ability to completely take over your social media accounts. You can do that by, tweaking the password. You can give people temporary access using like an admin or moderator feature, depending on what platform you're using. And then co-hosted rooms, same thing. You can give someone the ability to co-moderate or co-host a space. emceeing your virtual events, your in-person events. Those are just a few examples of what a community collab looks like. Or I've seen a lot of times where somebody might take over someone's webinar, or, if you have a private Facebook group, you invite that person to teach. Sometimes we do that on my Saturday Zoom meetups with my podcast peeps. Instead of me taking over, I give somebody else the ability to take over for that Saturday. And so again, tapping into one another's spaces and audiences and each other's platforms. This helps with consistency and building connection. And The last one, level 4, is a business collab. So collaborating on putting together a full production, a full event, like, for instance, the one that we're attending for the Black Effect Podcast Festival. So it's Charlemagne the God, Lauren LaRosa, and DJ Envy. They're all co-hosts on The Breakfast Club, but they're also business partners too. And they're also co-leading this event, even though it is under the Black Effect Podcast Network and iHeart Media umbrella. DJ Envy, Lauren LaRosa, and everybody else who's invited to have a panel or participate is essentially collaborating with this business venture. Digital products. I've invited a few of my previous guests to collaborate with me by doing a digital product. There was one person, she was a like kid personality. So she did the YouTube channels for the kids, and we collaborated on a few coloring pages together for the kids, or something very simple like that, or something bigger and grandiose. Services. So I specialize in podcast planning services, podcast strategy, some digital products that I think make sense for podcasters. And I know some other people who specialize in editing or who help you get your podcast up and placed in ads. So then I would collaborate with them to create something to meet my clients' needs, because some of the things I cover, some of the things they need me to cover, and vice versa. And referrals. So you can do podcast affiliate referrals. So for instance, I'm building an institution. Any person that brings people into the group, they can get 20% from bringing that lead in, that referral. So this is where the money is made. The transactions actually happen. Now, the problem is many of the podcasters get stuck at level 1, which is just the content collab. They collaborate, but they don't leverage. And that's why their growth feels slow, opportunities are limited, and money feels inconsistent. The shift that I want you all to consider is that if you want to see growth faster and growth that feels more aligned, then you have to take a step forward. Community plus business collaborations is where the magic happens. This is where relationships will deepen, audiences are combined, and revenue is created. And now, why does that matter more now than ever before? This is podcast festival season, right? We're going to different conferences, different festivals, and things that are happening. And a lot of times we take on that journey by ourselves, and we are so overstimulated and overwhelmed with just everything that's happening at the festival that we don't have a chance to take it all in. When you collaborate, you can say, hey, I know I want to get into this session. I'm interested to hear what that other session has going on. If you guys could go in that room and we'll go in this room, and then later we can both exchange notes. That's, how you take on a big festival like that. Or, we all go in and we ride through on a party bus and we draw attention and eyeballs to us. We wear all of our merch together. We're wearing the same thing. We're going to galvanize the people and get people to ask us questions. And that's effective. Whereas you're going alone and approaching it alone, it's not as effective. A small a small tadpole in the pond, right, is not going to get a ton of eyeballs unless there's many tadpoles, all swimming the same wave together. So if you can kind of see what I mean, it's great, but now it's not, especially in today's climate, it's not enough to move the needle forward. So you have to kind of think, what things can we be doing differently? I sat in the Monday morning marketing room on Fanbase this morning. They have the same room every Monday at 7 a.m. held by one of the pioneers in the music industry right now, based in Atlanta, Nick Love. And his profile on Fanbase is Nick Loves ATL. But he's been hosting this room, I think, for the past 3 or 5 years. And the conversation was kind of around, do you have to, as a music artist, to be sustainable, do you have to be doing all of the basically the clown show, the circus? Do you have to be performative for you to get noticed? And there's a lot of people that will say yes, because indie artists, yes, they're still there, like the Low Russells of the world and the Russes of the world. But they're, even though they have a lot of momentum, they're still few, far, and in between. What's working right now is when you have a stage presence, but you also have a social media presence. And to stand out and cut through all of the noise in this saturated market, you kind of have to be a little over the top. So over the top for you as a podcaster might look like you rolling up with the whole group, a whole community of podcasters, just for you to transcend and help cross over. So that's what we're talking about today in this episode. I hope you guys kind of get the vision and understand the importance of collaboration, and not to just stop at content collaboration by doing the whole guest swapping, clip swapping thing. You should think about how you can deepen the relationship. And maybe it starts with the guest swap and content clips, but it should evolve after that. So that's just level one. Try taking every person on a journey with you and sift through who's the best aligned, so you know what level to stop at with that person, with that relationship. So again, level one, content collab; level two, distribution collab; level three, community collab; and level four is a business collab. And then everybody has a time and a place and a season in your life. And so you get to define what that looks like, but try to think about it that way, where you're taking each person on a journey with you to stimulate your growth, and to be doing this long term, to make sure that, you know, you are dotting your I's and crossing your T's, and you're more visible by fostering the relationships and tapping into the relationships that you already have. So again, we're meeting up in Atlanta. We're meeting up April 25th, which is on a Saturday, from like 10 to 2. We're going to be doing the party bus activities. And then from about 2:30 onward until about 8 is the Black Effect Podcast Festival. So if you want to be a part of the community, make sure to find us, plantopodcast.com/Atlanta. Make sure to share this episode with a friend. Make sure to follow It Is I, DaniMarie, on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of the places. I'm always talking to you about all things podcasting. Of course, I'm your podcast bestie. So what else would I be doing? I love doing what I do, and I love championing my people, my content creators, my podcasters. And of course, if you need me, because I said the fast track to success is not just collaboration, but it's also good coaching too. So then make sure you definitely reach out. I have helped a lot of people on their podcast journey. And again, it's helping them think about the bigger picture. So it's not just creating the content. That's the easiest part of it, right? But it's like, if you want to do this as a business, there's some stuff that you probably haven't yet considered and thought about, and how to package all of that together. That's where I come in. So you definitely need help as you continue to scale and break barriers on your podcast journey. And so that's when you would enlist the help of someone like me, who literally teaches this for a living. And my final thought is, if you've been, again, trying to grow your podcast alone, that might be your problem. Podcasting is a powerful tool, but it's only powerful with the right people, strategy, and intention. Again, hit me up if you have any questions about Atlanta or about podcasting in general. I am your podcast bestie, DaniMarie, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow on another live.
Bitch on the ride on my back like a Mustang. See ya. I got a watch on my wrist, is a bust down. See ya. I'm tryna hop on a flight out of town. See ya. But I see my baby to bring it around.